talking of incompetence and foolishness, Keir Starmer is deciding that he's going to try and get rid of overly expensive crap onto the Ukrainians. So Starmer could send armies troubled. That's the word troubled is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Ajax vehicles to Ukraine. That this is a light tank, it would seem, that has been assembled at a hefty price. There's a fleet of them that has cost at least £6.3 billion, is 8 years behind schedule, and now they have all of 50 vehicles that can be ready to be deployed. Bear in mind, in a standard encounter on the Ukrainian battlefield, up to a dozen armored fighting vehicles can be destroyed inside about 30 minutes. And that's by either side. Like the Russians in their Pokrovsk advance have had to have quite a number of, they take the risk of having their armored personnel carriers basically be destroyed to do the job, which is to deliver the infantry to the combat zone, knowing that they're going to have loads of armored vehicles knocked out. So if you can lose a dozen inside half an hour, then what the hell are a bunch of 50 light tanks going to do? How much difference are they going to make given the Russian, again, The Economist admits, Russian drone dominance, Russian missile dominance, Russian air control. 50 light tanks really isn't going to make that much of a difference. And to believe that they would, you would have to probably be a particularly drunk telegraph writer. So, but this, the Ajax has, of course, Ajax is the one that lost the duel with Achilles, then went mad and disgraced himself and ultimately killed himself, I believe. So it's so funny that you would name something after such a mythical person. But there are a number of flaws in this vehicle, which the Telegraph helpfully outlines for any Russian intelligence men who are reading their paper, which I'm sure they all do. So I'm going to read these out for the purposes of the edification of the audience on the audio version of this program. So, 1, heavy armor. Among 1,200 additional requirements added by the MOD. So that's 1,200 suggestions as to how they were going to improve this vehicle. Bear in mind, this isn't even that big. Requirements added by the Ministry of Defense that cumulatively cause noise and shaking so violent it injures personnel. So the armor makes so much noise and shakes so much that it could injure the men within the tank. The weight is 42 tons, but a standard light tank of course weigh far less. The crew, the free personnel limited to 1.5 hours maximum in the vehicle due to health concerns. Must wear noise-protecting equipment at all times. So basically, you could only spend 1.5 hours in that vehicle. Other than if you spend any more time than that in it, you run the risk of going deaf. And you need to wear ear defenders at all times, which means you can't hear the other men in the tank.
Or drones, or drones hovering above you. It's
sneaking up on you with us filled with oil, with Indian grease around it, which they're going to slap onto the side of your tank. So, fun stuff. 40mm automatic cannon, heavier MOD requirement to upgrade firepower. Vibration means it can't be fired when the vehicle is moving. So if you watch again, watch the footage coming from Ukraine of the old, supposedly obsolete Soviet-era tanks, the Russian and Ukrainians have both used T-65, as the name indicates, comes from the end of the sea. T-72s, at least 30 years old now. I think the design is older. All upgrade. The Russians have even upgraded T-55 from the 50s, which have been kept in storage in some vast hangar somewhere, upgraded the gun, and they use them as movable artillery, basically. But if you watch the old Soviet tanks, they can drive and fire at the same time. This thing, which costs at least £6 billion, the program, can't move and fire at the same time. So you need to stop, position yourself, presumably put on fresh ear defenders, and stop the vibrating of the heavy armor from seriously injuring you, hope that no Russian drones hit you, fire the cannon, and then move on again. So, Top speed 45 miles per hour, limited to 20 miles per hour because the vehicle's instability renders it unsafe. So you have to go about as quickly as a fucking milk float. Mobility. A design flaw means the vehicle is unable to reverse over obstacles more than 20 centimeters high. So, well done, Ministry of Defense. You have truly created the greatest vehicle in military history that can be defeated by something about this size, just being in its way. That's like you just throw a milk bottle down and that'd do it.
Yeah, well, I think that it's even worse than you're making it sound, Alex. And which is saying something. And it's like there's this amazing and this is bearing in mind that this is the Telegraph, which is the most, and this is a high bar, the most doggedly pro-Ukraine, pro-proxy war outlet in Britain, by some margin. It acknowledges that the Ajax, aptly named, as you note, has been plagued by a litany of problems, with vehicles proving to be so loud they caused hearing damage to soldiers testing them. About 310 soldiers needed to have hearing assessments, with 17 involved in the trials, reportedly now undergoing treatment for hearing loss. The fleet of 589 vehicles will be completed by 2030, and it is intended to be the quote unquote backbone of the British Army's future armoured and deep reconnaissance strike brigades for the next 30 years. So this completely useless vehicle, which has been rendered utterly irrelevant by the innovation of drones, is what Britain has signed up to for as a core component of its defense until 2055. And it's just like, and it's just, and it's, we've discussed this before, but I would urge readers to, I've written about this, but check out the report itself. Is that I think it was I don't know, I think it was mid 2024, the House of Lords Defense Committee published this very interesting report that was called Ukraine, a Wake-Up Call, which spelled out in pretty forensic detail all of the ways that Britain was completely screwed if it ended up in a direct conflict with Russia. It made the point that drones have revolutionized warfare in ways that Britain has not innovated or kept up with in any way whatsoever. It has demonstrated the importance of electronic warfare, which Britain is nowhere on. It depends entirely on the US for electronic warfare capabilities, which are inadequate and inferior to Russia's own. Russia routinely innovates in this field in order to, as you say, offset or kind of just completely blunt the effectiveness of particular weapon systems. And it lays out all of these issues which Britain would encounter if it ended up at war with Russia, which certain elements of the power structure seem determined to push ahead with, despite the fact it would be a suicide mission. And then the report itself, it concludes by offering a grand total of 0 proposals for correcting these very serious issues. And it consulted all sorts of senior military apparatchiks, current and former, think tank idiots, blah, blah. And their only response was, well, let's throw more money at defense. And it's like, and I've made this point on I think on previous broadcasts, but it bears repeating that, like, when Europe when there was that flurry, I think it was over the summer, of front page stories in the media about how Britain needs to get serious about rearming and reinvesting in its defense, and Europe does as well. There was the share prices of European defense contractors, they surged, and we had a kind of bizarre Enron style situation, except the executives of these companies were actually being honest, rather than with Enron, the executives were lying, saying we could do X, Y, and Z when they couldn't, and their share price was based on hypothetical future value if they managed to do these things which they claimed they could do, which they couldn't. You had the bizarre spectacle of the chief executives of major European defense firms saying we're overvalued because, well, yeah, there's this expectation that we're going to deliver all these weapons. It's going to take us years, if at all, to actually do anything. So this burst of exuberance about our potential value is based on nothing.